And so I wanted to just kind of pan back for a moment and talk about one of the ways that I see the path of realization unfolding for people. And one of the ways that I give it a framework is this sense of the integration of our human experience that's very much, kind of boots on the ground and more sensory and more of our animal nature, you could say, or our nature of form that has a whole lifetime of experiences that we gather and that we draw from that informs a certain knowledge of what it is to be in a body and what it is to be in relationship, whether it's with nature or with others or within a society, within family structures, all kinds of things that we've banked experience about that contributes to a deeper human wisdom of what it is to walk in this world and what it is to negotiate and navigate in time and space. But there's an integration of that humanity in the path of self-realization with an ever more conscious knowing of who we are in our essence as spirit and how that essence pervades all of creation and is not separate from form. It's not separate from form in any way, and in fact, they're absolutely so much interdependent upon each other that they really don't exist apart from one another. And from some perspectives, it's you can really see how they're one and the same until our minds divide them. And so, this notion of ourselves as spirit can be talked about lots of different ways, but one way that I like to think about it is that as our nature as spirit really more comes in a union and integration with our human form self, the more we may have access to the expressions of spirit that we might call divine qualities. And how when our conditioned self, that's more of this realm of time and space, is able to more clearly express and not so automatically fall into egoic tendencies that may obscure our clarity of our ability to see from the eyes of spirit. The more that conditioning is put to rest or quieted in our being, the more these divine qualities may come forward. And those can be talked about in a lot of different ways, but in reference to more of our essential divine nature, there's ways that you can sense when you rest back into yourself. Just now, like when you invite your attention to just come back down and in and feel like you're listening more from an anchored place as you sense your body rooting to your seat and rooting to the earth, and you sense your attention softening and becoming more quiet and just simply listening more intimately to what's being said and to perhaps even the sounds in your environment. There's a simplicity of being that is just a being with, a being with what's being said and what's occurring in this present moment. And this may be difficult or this may be easy, but the more you get a sense of this simplicity of being, the more you get a sense that spirit really tends to express quite naturally through us in its essence, in a way that is not defined by how we typically define our form self. Our form self that has a specific location and that feels like it's more inside than outside, may feel more apart or separate from what's outside. Our form self that has an age, that has a gender, that has sexual orientation, that has a history, that has dreams for the future. But the more you really look at who it is that you are that's not defined by these attributes, and you have a sense of your nature as awareness, then the more, then the more you get a sense that what's looking out your eyes and what exudes in the very essence of your being is not defined by past or future. It's not defined by time. It's not even defined by concretization of mind, like my awareness is only within. Because, we're aware of things in our environment, and that awareness doesn't really have an edge or a boundary. It may feel like it carries as far as we can hear, or as far as we can see, or as far as we can feel, but there's no hard edge or boundary. It's though it's only limited by the distant power of our senses. But that awareness itself is without boundary or edge. And so we get a sense of who and what we are in our essence that doesn't really have a fixed location. It's not even defined by inside or outside. It doesn't have an age until our mind goes to that reference point where it starts referencing time and referencing looks that determine an age, or the part of our mind that kicks into numbers and calendars and timelines. But when the mind is quiet and there's just a simple being and a joining with the moment, then those attributes to self are not asserted, and therefore they're not referenced. And we can begin to get a sense of our nature that doesn't really, it just operates in a completely different paradigm, and it's present without need to be quantified or qualified in terms of time or location or space.